My wedding was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, the kind of day you imagine when you're little and someone asks you what your dream wedding looks like. I never planned on having anything extravagant or royal. I just wanted something beautiful, simple, elegant, and true to who I was. But somehow, even that became a problem, because my parents decided my wedding was too fancy compared to my sister's. My older sister, Anna, got married 3 years earlier. Her wedding was lovely, but it was small, held in a modest hall that my parents could easily afford. Nobody judged her choices, but my parents treated her wedding as the standard that I was now expected to follow. They believed every child should have equal celebrations to avoid jealousy or complaints. Equal didn't mean fair, it meant identical. So when I started planning mine with my fiancé, Daniel, they began hovering over every detail like inspectors. The moment I showed them the venue we fell in love with, a charming outdoor garden with warm fairy lights, a natural archway covered in flowers, and a small lake nearby, they frowned. My mother's face tightened like she had tasted something sour. My father didn't say anything at first, but the silence felt heavier than any criticism. Finally my mother said, "This is too much. Your sister never had anything like this." I tried to explain that Daniel's family was helping with half the expenses, and the venue wasn't as expensive as it looked. But they didn't care. They were stuck on the idea that my wedding would overshadow my sister's. I thought they were joking at first. Who argues about a wedding being too nice? But they kept insisting I pick a cheaper hall, remove the flower arrangements, reduce the guest list, and even change the menu to something simple and not showy. At one point, my mother even said, "We don't want Anna to feel embarrassed that her wedding wasn't as grand as yours." That sentence stayed with me. They weren't concerned about me, or what I wanted, or even about my fiancé's family being excited. Everything revolved around Anna, always Anna. Growing up, she was the golden child, the one who got praised for everything, the one whose needs became the family's priority. I was used to it, but this time it felt different. This was my wedding, my life. Daniel noticed the stress, and he asked me one evening if I wanted to change things to make peace. I looked at him and said, "Why should we change our wedding so someone else doesn't feel insecure?" He agreed. That talk helped me realize I wasn't being unreasonable, they were. When I finally told my parents I wouldn't be downgrading anything, the situation exploded. My father accused me of trying to show off. My mother told me I was creating division in the family. My sister stayed mostly quiet, but she didn't defend me either. She simply said, "If they feel this way, maybe you should listen." I didn't want to fight anymore, so I calmly said, "You asked me to make my wedding less fancy. So I am giving you exactly what you asked for." They looked confused. I continued, "You don't have to worry about being embarrassed. You won't have to compare anything. Because you're not invited anymore." The silence that followed was sharp. My mother kept blinking like she didn't understand the words. My father asked if I was being dramatic. But I was done being treated like the lesser child. I told them I wouldn't allow their negativity to poison my day. If they wanted everything to be equal so badly, then they could sit at home like they did during my sister's honeymoon, because she didn't invite them to that either. That part, for some reason, they never complained about. They thought I was bluffing, but I wasn't. As the wedding day approached, they kept trying to guilt trip me. My mother sent long texts about how families should stick together. My father asked if I really wanted people to talk. And my sister told me I was overreacting. I didn't budge. On the wedding day, Daniel's parents were emotional and supportive. My side of the aisle had empty seats where my parents should have been, but I didn't let it ruin anything. When I walked down the aisle, it felt peaceful. Free, like I had finally chosen myself instead of choosing to keep the peace for everyone else. The ceremony was everything I imagined. Soft music, warm lights, laughter, and love radiating from every face that actually cared about us. Even guests who noticed my parents' absence didn't say much beyond expressing sympathy. Daniel squeezed my hand as we exchanged vows, and in that moment, I realized something important. A wedding isn't about who refuses to show up. It's about the people who choose to stand by you. After the wedding, photos were posted online, and of course my parents saw them. My mother sent a single message, "We hope you're happy." I responded, "I finally am." Choosing myself didn't break the family. What broke it was years of favoritism, comparison, and expectations that I stay small. I simply stopped participating in that cycle. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. When my parents told me they weren't coming to my wedding, I thought I would feel devastated. For a moment, I did. There was a sharp sting in my chest, a sudden feeling of disbelief that the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally could so easily abandon one of the most important days of my life. But the sadness didn't last long. It was quickly replaced by a strange, quiet clarity, one that had been building inside me for years. My parents had always put my sister, Anna, at the center of everything. Her achievements were celebrated like national holidays, her problems became family emergencies, her smallest needs turned into the household's priority. I grew up learning how to make myself smaller, quieter, less noticeable, because the spotlight belonged to her. Even when we became adults, that dynamic never changed. Her wedding had been my parents' pride and joy. They still brought it up all the time, how beautiful it was, how perfect it looked, how smoothly it ran. They compared everything to it, as if her wedding had become the family benchmark for success. So when I started planning mine, I expected some opinions, maybe even some disagreements. What I didn't expect was their open resentment. The moment they realized my venue, decorations, and catering would end up being slightly nicer than my sister's, their attitude shifted. My mother called my wedding unnecessary showmanship. My father accused me of trying to outdo Anna. They said guests would gossip. They said it would hurt your sister's feelings. They said it wasn't fair. But what they really meant was simple: how dare you have something better than Anna? When they finally told me they wouldn't attend because they couldn't support a wedding designed to stir jealousy, I felt anger simmering under the surface. But instead of yelling, arguing, or trying to convince them, I simply said, "Okay." That one word stunned them. My father blinked as if he thought he misheard. My mother's voice cracked when she said, "Is that all you have to say?" I nodded. That was all. They expected tears, pleading, dramatic reconciliation scenes. They didn't expect acceptance. They didn't expect peace. They didn't expect that their absence would not break me, but expose them. In the days leading up to the wedding, I heard through relatives that my parents were telling people they were taking a moral stance. That I was being disrespectful. That my wedding was a competition. Some relatives tried to intervene, urging me to apologize to keep the family together. I refused. Families don't stay together by sacrificing one child's happiness to protect another child's ego. When the wedding day arrived, I expected the empty chairs to disturb me. And yes, for a brief moment, when I walked into the venue and saw the unclaimed seats at the front row, seats I had left empty on purpose, I felt a heaviness settle in my heart. But then the music started. Daniel stood at the altar looking at me like I was the only person in the world. Our guests smiled and clapped softly as I walked down the aisle. There was warmth, there was joy, and there was genuine love, something that had always felt scarce in my own home. As the ceremony unfolded, the absence of my parents became less noticeable. Instead, I noticed the presence of people who actually cared. Daniel's family, who treated me like a daughter. My friends, who cheered louder than anyone. My coworkers, who took time off just to celebrate with us. People who chose me, not out of obligation, but out of love. At the reception, something unexpected happened. The guests weren't whispering about my parents like they feared. They were whispering about them, but not for the reasons my parents imagined. Some of my aunts shook their heads in disappointment. One said, "I can't believe they skipped this. It's such a beautiful wedding." Another said, "They always favored Anna, but this is too much." My cousin whispered, "You deserve better than them." For the first time in my life, the truth was being acknowledged openly. My parents' attempt to protect my sister's ego didn't cause shame. It caused sympathy, for me, not for them. When the night ended, and guests began to leave with hugs and warm wishes, I sat with Daniel and looked around the quieting venue. I expected to feel a hole where my parents should have been. Instead, I felt whole for the first time. I had stopped chasing approval I would never receive, and in doing so, I found peace I never expected. When photos from the wedding were eventually posted online, my sister commented with a single heart emoji. My parents didn't comment at all. Instead, my mother sent me a private message, "We hope you're satisfied." I looked at the words, and for the first time in my life, I didn't respond with guilt or sadness or the urge to fix their feelings. I simply replied, "I am." Because I was. The absence of people who diminish you is not a loss. It is a blessing in disguise. I had always believed I needed my parents to make my wedding complete, but I realized that a wedding isn't defined by who isn't there. It's defined by who stands beside you, cheering you on, wishing you well, and loving you without conditions. Their absence didn't ruin my wedding. It revealed the truth of our relationship. And it gave me the freedom to build my own family, one where love isn't rationed, compared, or controlled, but freely given.